English is not my first language, Romanian is, and it's very weird because I've been away for 3 years from home and I don't really have that many people I can actively and consistently talk to in Romanian. So I'm starting to lose the language little by little. I still understand every word, I still can read it, although sometimes it sounds a little bit off. I can write it, I can call my family in it, I can even call my friends in it, but like sometimes I literally cannot find a word in Romanian, but sometimes I don't find the right word in Romanian. Sometimes I have to use an English word instead of a Romanian word. I don't think in it anymore, I don't dream in it anymore, I don't live anything in it anymore. And especially in the beginning, when I start speaking Romanian again, when I go back to my home country and start literally having conversations every day, I don't feel like myself speaking it. If I don't sprinkle in some English words, I genuinely don't feel like myself anymore when I speak only Romanian. It feels very odd and very off. I was actually researching a lot on why this happens and what this has to do with identity itself, because if I don't feel like myself while speaking a language, that means that language shapes somewhat in my identity. And what I realized is that I did not lose the Romanian language. Like, of course, I can read, write, speak in it as fluently as I want if I take like 1-2 days of getting used to the language again. But I did forget my identity in Romanian. But I did forget my identity in my native language. And apparently, this is something extremely common amongst people who are bilingual and move to the second language country. Language is not just a skill, it's a state in which you are. It's your way of being. In Romanian, we have different ways of calling emotions, different ways of acting humorous and like speaking jokes, different ways of interacting with each other. Literally, it's so different from how the British English is, how the American English is. Like, it's so different. And you realize the language also has a tempo. And then when you start speaking in your native language again, you kind of miss that tempo. Like, you don't know exactly how to pace things and how to make people understand. The main thing that I noticed is that I cannot take Romanian seriously anymore, and especially when it comes to my feelings. I cannot cry in Romanian anymore, which I think matters. And I cannot express my emotions in Romanian anymore. Although this started from a younger age because I kept reading and listening to things in English and movies, and those basically taught me what emotions are. So it's way easier for me to talk about emotions and stuff like that in English. But now I literally have no way of expressing my emotions in Romania. Like, I literally forgot how. I also realized that if I was trying to flirt in Romanian or do anything that's a little bit more, I don't know, that requires some sort of charisma, that requires some sort of knowing how to interact with people and social skills, I do not have it. Like, I think I lost it. I don't know if I was very flirty before, but now if you put me in a situation where I have to flirt with someone, I would not know how to do it in Romania. Like, I would be maybe funny from their perspective because I have no idea what to say, but yeah, it would not work out well. Now, on the topic of identity, Romanian is very different from English because we are just way ruder. And if you're from Eastern Europe or from anywhere in that region, you know that we tend to be a little more rude than the American, and we tend also to be a little more deep than Americans, especially when you first meet someone. And a funny thing that I lost with that is I lost to some extent my rudeness, but I still feel it in my heart. I still feel like I want to be to some extent rude or express my rudeness, express this bitchiness that I've been basically taught to be since I was like young. And it's not even how I was taught to be, it's just how we are as a society, as a community. We are a little bit bitchy, especially as women. And then in English, I cannot express that. And sometimes I just literally push it inside of me because I literally cannot express that bitchiness as I would in Romanian. At some point, I start breaking and I start being the rudest person on the planet, which I think is funny. And this, I think, is a part of identity that I lost and I was not expecting to lose at all because it was such a big part of my identity as an Eastern European girl. But then you go into the US and if you're rude, you kind of lose opportunities. You lose the chance to meet people and people think you're weird and people think you're literally crazy. Like, if you tell them things straight to their face, they're gonna think you're crazy. And so English, especially American English, is not made for you to be this direct. And in the way that identity I formed there when I was speaking English so much was formed, I kind of broke away from my original identity and became this like new Americanish person, even in Romanian. Like, I can be rude or I can be cold, but not say it out loud and not say everything that goes through my mind when I am these things. I also lost access to some memories that I used to have, and I don't think I heard anyone else talk about this, and I'm curious if it's like a general experience that people have. But I cannot recall memories anymore. Like I cannot recall the exact words that were said in a memory because in my brain it's only English. Like in my brain I have no Romanian that much. Like I cannot, if I really force it, I can speak in Romanian in my brain, like thinking Romanian, but it doesn't come naturally anymore. So when I think back on memories and facts and things like that, everything comes in English. Like the memories that I used to have when I was a child or in high school or in middle school, they were all in Romanian, and now I'm thinking of them in English, which changes them completely. Like literally changes everything that person said. And what's weird is that sometimes I have the same feeling with text messages, and then I go back to look at the text originally written in Romanian and not the one that I translated in my head at some point, I don't know when. And it's literally a different text. Like the person said completely different things, or I said completely different things. And it's just kind of depressing to think about because you lose so much information in this translation that you have in your brain because you literally rethink your memories. And at some point, I realized that some memories that I keep talking about in English, and maybe this is not specific about the language itself, just the fact that I kept retelling the story in a story format. But some memories that I had in my past that I started retelling and retelling and retelling in English in a very well crafted story format, they became those stories and not what the memory was initially. Like, I'm not saying I was lying when I was telling them in a story format, but just I left a lot of the details out and I left a lot of things that maybe were not that important in the story itself. And so now I can only think of it in the scripted way that I made it to sound interesting, to sound fun, to sound whatever. And this was all unconscious. Like I was never thinking of, oh, I need to craft it in this way. I never wrote it down. But sometimes I just tell someone when I first meet them about like 5-6 years of my life in like, I don't know, 2-3 minutes. And then the entire memory of me in those 5-6 years of my life toned down to basically what I keep repeating about those 5-6 years. So where I wanted to go with this is that identity is being shaped by our language and the language that we learn first, and also the languages that we acquire later and the ones that we speak the most in for the majority of our life. And we should be a little bit more aware of how these things shift, because in 3 years of me speaking only English, I never noticed once that my Romanian is fading away, that my identity is fading away. But then only when I came back to Romania and started talking to people, I realized that things are just being off and that I literally am not the person that I used to be anymore just because I changed the language. Also the context, but also the language, because now I'm associating my identity with the English version of me, not the Romanian version of me. And I think it's also important to reconnect with the language that you used to speak when you were younger, or your first language. Even if you use it for like familiar conversation, I think it's cool to listen to a podcast in it or write a journal entry in it, because otherwise you will literally forget how to express yourself in the language, especially when it comes to deep things. And then you're gonna end up in this kind of identity crisis, because who are you? Are you just a copy of all of the English people that you met because that's how you learned English? Romanian, I made my entire personality in 20 years, and in English it was like more of a 2-3 year thing. So if you speak another language and you relate to this, please keep your first language, because it's more important than you think about yourself, about how you are and who you are, and it will teach you a lot about yourself when you start analyzing how the language is built and how the language is taught in schools and how the language is just like conversationally used. So please practice your native language. Hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to watch more on psychology and personal growth, then you should watch this playlist. Love you guys. Have the best day of your life. Kisses. Bye bye.